Hey guys, before we get into the episode, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Paragons of Earth, the exciting new superhero comic I'm working on with Thomas DJ and Eric Johns. For this comic, we've unearthed a number of obscure and forgotten Golden Age superheroes, plucked them from the depths of the public domain, and completely redesigned and reinvented them for the modern day. It's an exciting cast of characters, and we're throwing them up against the threat of a Lovecraftian apocalypse. It's got action, it's got drama, it's got alternate dimensions and alien worlds, and it's even got a giant shark in a Hawaiian shirt. What else could you want? But in order to make this comic a reality, we need your help. The comic is crowdfunding now, and you can help support it by going to crowdfunder.com/paragonscomic. That's crowdfunder without the e.com/paragonscomic. You'll be able to find that link in the show notes, so please double check if you didn't quite get it. Please help make this comic a reality. We are counting on your support. And now, on with the show.
치킨집 그런 거 아빠가 다른 데다 차려줄게. 너 대학도 가고 공부도 해야지. 아빠가 좀 이상한 능력이 생겨서.
지금 뭐 하시는 거예요?
이제 무미 아버지만 있으면 걱정할 거 없는 거 아니에요?
당연하지.
초능력 아저씨, 진짜 능력을 가진 사람들은 처음부터 이기도록 태어난 사람들 거라고요.
루미야.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I'm your host, Perry Constantine, and welcoming two new guests today, and that is Mykel and Roy. Guys, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So why don't you talk a little bit about yourselves? Mykel, let's start with you.
Okay, well, a lot of it's going to be similar to Roy because we actually grew up together. Yep. But we're both from Oregon, and we both have a movie podcast of our own. So I thought being a guest on yours with a superhero movie would be a perfect fitting. And that podcast is a Bad Potatoes Pod. It's a play on Rotten Tomatoes, but we're couch potatoes.
Yes.
So we cover movies, and it's any type of movie, all movie. We take suggestions. We'll do never seen. So like movies that none of us have seen.
Or if a movie that we really want the other person to see, we have to watch it. So if I want him to see a movie that he just hasn't, then I'll pick the movie as the movie.
Yeah, okay. We had a third guest that was just against foreign movies. So I was like, well, you gotta, you have to watch this. So
yeah, that's great.
There's no turning back because it's my pick. And just a question, my audio lines aren't picking up on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up loving, I guess Batman was my first love. I had these Batman boots, winter boots. I wore it through the summer. I wore them until they rotted off. I wore them to church. My grandma, there's pictures of me dressed up all super nice with a little tie on, but the Batmoon boots stayed on. Or I'm not knowing. And then it slowly transitioned to Spider-Man. And something else. I got a Carpet Corp on Instagram. I create custom nerdy carpets, Tufton carpets.
They're really cool.
They are pretty cool. I do 64, Spider-Man, Venom, Akira, Akutsuki, some anime stuff in there.
Very cool. Yeah. Awesome. Roy, how about you? Anything else to add to any of that?
No, I mean, my name is Roy. I'm from Oregon. Mykel and I have known each other since we were young. I've loved superheroes. That was kind of similarities though, like we both like nerd stuff. I grew up watching the animated series because I was born in the 90s, so like perfect timing for that stuff. So, which I'm so stoked about the X-Men 97 coming out soon.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I hope they have that banger intro still.
Oh, I think they're definitely going to have it. I mean, given how many times they've used it so far in the MCU, I don't see any reason why they would not go back to it.
Yeah, you kind of have to. Well, they're kind of like, I guess, bullied themselves into it.
Yeah, but I think they might change like the instrumental of it in some small way, kind of like they did with the Spider-Man theme on Homecoming, which would be interesting to see what they do with that. Okay, so you both got interested in, Roy, you said you got in through the X-Men, and Mykel, you said Batman was kind of your first love. Was it just those boots that got you into Batman first, or did you get in through like a movie or TV show or anything like that?
If Phantasm got me into it, and after I watched that, I was obsessed.
I still maintain I maintain that is the best Batman movie ever made.
I think so too, actually. I mean, it's been a long time since I've rewatched it, but what's in my memory still holds up to it being the best.
I think I love that movie so much because of the Joker. I like his villain arc in that movie. I don't know. It was really cool. I just recently rewatched it, honestly.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was
we
good.
We did an episode on it, I think like a few years ago now, and it was funny because both me and the guest, we couldn't really have much to say about it just because it's like, yeah, this is awesome, isn't it? And that was about it.
It's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Freaking sick. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, there was nothing really to criticize. So it was tough to kind of find stuff to talk about with it. So did you guys branch out into comics at all, or do you stick with kind of like movies and TV shows with superhero stuff?
I did branch out to comics, but when I got my comics from my uncle, which was a bunch of random comics, so I never read anything in order. So I was reading part of it, Fantastic Four, and then the next comic I'd read would be part of the Infinity War. But I thought it was cool. And then once I grew up and could get my own comics, I could afford my own, then I started buying, 1, 2, 3, 4, or the graphic novel.
And I tried to dabble in comics. Like I'm very particular because like I said, I love the X-Men, but there's so many X-Men comics that I don't even know where to begin. And then so I would pick a favorite. Like one of my favorites is Magneto. So I went to the House of X. I went and read that. And House of M, sorry. And then that was a great series. But then I was like, man, I want more. I really do want to get into comics, but there's just so many. And it's a big investment. Yeah,
it's tough, and it is a big investment. I mean, it's gotten a little bit easier with things like Marvel Unlimited and the DC program too. So it's a little bit easier to jump into stuff now in terms of financially speaking. But finding stuff where you should start can definitely be a challenge. I remember, Mykel, I had kind of a similar situation to you, where in my case it was my brother actually who he ran a store at the time when I started getting into X-Men and Batman the Animated Series, and so he would sell me these like unsold comics he had hanging around his store, and it was like, it'd be like completely random. It'd be like X-Men 24 and then Batman 725 or whatever it was. It's just like reading them with no idea of what was going on, especially for anyone who's reading X-Men comics in the 90s knows just like how steeped those books were in continuity. So I pick up a comic and it had Gambit and Rogue on the cover, and they'd be talking about how wait, Magneto's dead and everyone's sad about this girl named Ileana, and I don't know what's going, and there's this thing called the Legacy virus. I'm completely lost here. I have no idea what's going on.
And then you just turn to an alpha fight and watch Puck bounce off a tree. That's cool.
We love Puck.
Yeah,
and Puck fans.
I mean, I stuck with it though, but back then, we didn't have the internet either, so we couldn't look stuff up on Wikipedia to find out what was going on in a comic book. You couldn't ask people on Reddit. If you were lucky, you would have a comic book store and you could ask them, but even that was, kind of a 50-50 shot in the dark.
True.
Back in the day, I would go to marvel.com, like in my little closet room that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just, like, marvel.com had the character list. And on that character list, I had all their information, their superpowers, and then like their abilities. And then they would rank them on a scale from 1 to 100. And then I would sit there for hours, just like, it was kind of like the Wikipedia of Marvel, and you could just like go back, and like they would mention their parents or their partners or whatever, and I would just sit on there for hours just reading about each individual character.
Yeah, you remember those Marvel cards? They kind of did that too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
You go to the back and it shows like the information and power, agility, and
Again, my brother I got those from my brother, and he would like give me like this complete set of like the 92 Marvel trading cards, and I just sit there for hours reading the backs of those cards and like diving into all these characters. And I'm like, I don't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy are, but they look pretty cool. And there's this guy who looks kind of like Captain America, but he's not. And just going back and forth between all of the different teams and all of that stuff. Good times back then. Although I remember when the Marvel. Yeah, but I remember when I first got online, it was the Marvel site was actually very bare bones back then in the mid late 90s. So you'd actually gotten more information from the fan sites back then.
Yeah, that's so weird.
True.
But
I had this Marvel encyclopedia. I still have them. Like they update them so often, but every page, it's in alphabetical order, and everybody gets like a little tiny piece, unless you get, your Spider-Man. Then you get 4 pages to yourself, and I love flipping through that thing.
That thing was cool. I remember it being on your coffee table.
Yep.
What was that? The official handbook of the Marvel Universe?
Yeah, it was an official encyclopedia.
Oh, okay.
And, and it would just show like powers, aliases, enemy, and a little bio. But I love that thing.
So about your show, how long have you guys been doing that so far?
We are like 30 episodes in, and we've been doing it since I want to say April.
Yeah, I honestly cannot remember when we began, but time has kind of gotten slow with it. I feel, 30 episodes isn't very much, but we do it like every week. So
yeah, we try to get every weekend, and then we start, like, at first we weren't doing guests because we didn't know what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, but we just thought if we don't do it, we're never going to do it, so let's just start.
Yeah.
So, but we're working out the wrinkles, and now we started hitting other stuff, and starting getting guests on when we started TikTok, and it's getting fun. But the hard part, it's like you said, is the video. It's almost not worth doing the videos.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt, just because it was so much work just doing the audio and then having to do video as well, and just for like 5 views or something compared to the audio show, I'm just like, not worth it. Just focus on the audio instead.
For sure.
And then you got to worry about the thumbnails for YouTube or wherever you're putting it, and
yeah.
Then the different. Yeah, go ahead.
So another thing we like to talk about with guests before we jump into the main topic is, what kind of stuff are you interested in lately? It could be movies, TV shows, video games, whatever you're kind of interested in. Doesn't even have to be superhero related at all. But Roy, let's start with you.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm excited for X-Men 97 because that, honestly, I'm pretty sure that's what got me into Marvel and X-Men was the animated series, because I remember my cousin, I was watching Power Rangers on the couch, and my cousin came in. He's an older guy. He's older than me. And so I looked up to him, and he was just like, "What are you watching?" And I was just like, "Power Rangers." Like, duh, and he's like, he picks up the controller and changes it to WB, and it was X-Men. And it just so happened to be playing at the same time. And I remember just like, okay. And he's like, "Power Rangers is gay." I was like, okay. But then, like, I ended up falling in love with X-Men because, I was like, whoa, this is actually really cool. So watched that whole thing, bought the DVDs, had the Blu-rays, bought the VHSs. I have a few of them here, actually. They're pretty cool.
Wow,
and,
going really old school there.
Yeah, dude, I have like almost all the ones that I used to have as a kid because you can see on my background, I'm kind of just collecting my childhood back now that I can.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I guess I've been into is retro video games. I just been really into that. Like,
Yeah,
that's basically
he's actually pretty good at it. Like he has a TikTok too he could plug, but he just goes in and he gets killer deals on OfferUp, Facebook, and just either resells or like takes the good parts of the bundle for the collection and then sells the bulk that he already has. But
yeah, it's been pretty lucrative and also not really because I have to buy a bunch of stuff, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah, you put all the money that you earn flipping and reselling, and yeah, I could show you my game collection here, but it's off camera. But yeah, that's what I've been really into lately.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. I got a recall box, so I do retro gaming mostly through emulation these days. But
Yeah.
I had to when my parents downsized. I realized I'm like I can't bring all these like retro game systems back to Japan with me, so it was just kind of like I had to sell them all off. And funny thing is, the older ones like the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, the NES, all of those sold for much higher than like my PlayStation 2 or my Xbox.
Yeah, that's what I always think of it when I'm buying. It's always an investment. Like I think because these old games are just not going to be around forever,
right. Yeah.
So that's why I always think about like acquiring it and then just having it and like, okay, time to sell it.
Yeah. That's one of the things that disappoints me because I was thinking about some of those. Like I can get the older stuff on my recall box, but some of the stuff from like the PS2 or the original Xbox era, those the recall box isn't powerful enough to handle that emulation yet. So so like some of those games, like the Xbox Punisher game or the original the Ultimate Spider-Man game or the Incredible Hulk game that was on Xbox, all of those I've been like jonesing to play those again, but I just don't have the hardware to do it.
Yeah, and all three of those games that you just named off are fairly expensive now. Like I think the Punisher alone is $50 to $70.
I was looking online just out of curiosity, like how much would it cost me to buy an Xbox? How much would it cost me to buy the games? The games were far and away more expensive than the Xbox itself was.
Yeah, sure. I never really got into Xbox much. I played Halo 2 probably on Xbox, and that's about it. And so that's just one of the things I don't collect. And plus, I find it really hard to sell Xbox games.
Yeah,
compared to
especially here in Japan, Xbox is like a complete non-entity. Like you'll find like the Nintendo wall, it's like several shelves, or like the PlayStation wall, several shelves, and then if you're lucky, you'll have like one tiny corner of Xbox stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, that you say Japan, that scared me on the email. I was like, Japan, like because I had to convert the time, and I was like,
time difference.
Well, yeah, because it's the previous day, and then I was like, wait, did I schedule in Japanese time?
Well, thanks for
Nani.
Thanks for the flexibility there because I didn't know you were in Japan.
Yeah. No problem. Like that's why I set up that Calendly for scheduling guests, just because. Smart. Yeah, I mean, having to do it. I used to do conversions by myself, and like I would always get it wrong, or daylight savings would come along, or something like that, and it would just completely throw everything off because we don't have that over here. So,
I hate daylight savings.
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
Mykel right now.
Mykel, how about you? What are you interested in these days?
Lately, I've been drawing a lot on my iPad. And I'm getting back in, like I've been reading tons of manga. Like I'm so caught up in all my manga, I'm kind of upset. Like now I'm just finding random ones to read, but they all seem to be cool. The ones I'm reading, just because before I go to bed, like reading kind of makes me tired. So I'll just read chapters here, chapters there, pass out, read chapters here, just every night. Now I'm caught up on everything, and that's a kind of a pain too because I want to enjoy the anime, but then I watch the anime and then I'm like, well, what happens? Let me go
you gotta wait.
Yeah, I just can't wait because I want to know what happens. So I go read it, and then sometimes the manga's not done, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, now I gotta wait in this too.
Yeah, I remember back when Dragon Ball was on the air, Dragon Ball Z, when I was in middle school and high school, and one of the reasons they had so many filler episodes back then was because they were going faster than the manga was, so they had to wait to catch up.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh
yeah,
I would have hated that.
Those Dragon Ball days or the Naruto days. My friends, my friend, you know, the AMVs with like Breaking Benjamin, and it's just like a fight. We would watch those. Like, we didn't even like Breaking Benjamin, but it's so sick watching the AMVs. And we would just ruin his parents' computer with FrostWire and LimeWire downloading Naruto episodes because we had to see it. Like, and that was like the beginning of Naruto when no one really knew what Naruto was, and there's only no English, no nothing.
Yeah,
just like the fan subs and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm into. I'm turning into a little shopaholic with clothes, which is terrible.
Hey man, you look good the other day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Black Friday's coming up too. So.
Oh, I know. We're from Portland, Oregon, and they have the Adidas headquarters here, the Nike's headquarters, the Columbia headquarters, and I got passes to all of them. So I'm like trying to not spend so much money, but damn,
it's a deal, man.
Yeah, deal.
Okay, cool. For my part, the only thing I've been so busy with recording. I've been like recording several of these episodes back to back. I recorded one like 2 days ago, so I don't have a whole lot that's new. But just this morning, I started replaying Final Fantasy VII Remake. Just kind of got the urge to jump back into it, and God, it was just such a fun game. The way that it completely played with the expectations and like towards the end there. And I don't have a PS5 yet, but but after seeing the trailer for Rebirth, I told my wife, I'm like,
you got to get it
next year. I got to get a PS5, yeah, because we got Spider-Man 2, you got the Wolverine game coming out, Rebirth, all these games that I just want to play, and I'm just like, we have to get a PS5 eventually.
Too many games, not enough time.
PS5 Slim just released too.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like the time is because like I said, I got 2 kids who are both under the age of 3, so it's even like the other day I broke out the VR for like the first time in probably since before my son was born. He's a year and a half now, so and just like trying to play VR with my kids around is tough because they always want to. Yeah, they always they're like, what is that thing? And they always try to come up and see me or like get in the way or pulling on the cords or anything like that.
Yep. That's rough. The VR is a lot of fun, but it takes up, you really have to like dedicate to yourself to that space that you're in. Like,
I was telling Roy, he's never beat or really played a Final Fantasy. And I was like, you gotta play one of them. Like, I mean, 7, I recommend 7 or 9 because 9's my all-time favorite, but yeah, they're good games. The music, I guess the nostalgia for me, but he's not gonna have it. But even Crystal Chronicles, I played Crystal Chronicles, Tactics. They were fun.
Yeah, I mean, 7 is still the gold standard for me. 7's a lot of. Also, you know, it was a game that it's very expensive now, but Xenogears, that was because there's a whole rights issue with that. Like that was a really fun game. I think it was available on the PS3 store. I'm not sure if it's still available on the PS4 store.
Xenogear, that's they have like the light sword that changes. Right?
I don't think so. It's like an RPG with like giant robots type of thing, and it's got these. It's actually a really like in-depth story about like, you know, dealing with religion and like the nature of existence. It's a really deep story.
Well, that's something that I never, because like Mykel mentioned, I've never played Final Fantasy. Okay, so I played Final Fantasy 9, and I played it on my PlayStation when I was in like middle school, and I didn't have a memory card, but I thought I was clever, and I would just play the whole game through, and then when I got to that change disc section, I would just open it up, change the disc, put it in and continue, and that's not how it goes at all. So I was, I gave up right then and there, and I never played another Final Fantasy because I was like, dude, I beat that first disc, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to do that ever again. So, I mean, I remember
yeah, those memory cards, man. Those are the bane of my existence. I remember those back then.
And the change disc games are weird too. Like I had Parasite Eve, and it was a change disc game, and I was so confused. I was like, what? Like I'm used to playing Monster Rancher or Digimon, and then I started playing that, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going
on. Okay, now today we are talking about a Korean superhero movie called Psychokinesis that you guys wanted to talk about. I'm probably going to mispronounce the real title of this, but it's Yeonnyak is Yeonnyak. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It was the original title. But what is your history with it? What kind of made you guys want to talk about this movie?
So there was two choices. I forgot what the other choice was. It was, I don't know if you remember, Roy, because I remember telling you. But this one, me and Roy haven't seen it either. So I was like, it wasn't covered on your podcast yet. Me and him haven't seen it. Let's do it. So we have no history of it at all.
We've been on like a Korean movie kick lately too. So
yeah, actually,
I was actually stoked when I saw, the cast, and I was like, oh, I know where this is going. This is a Korean movie. This is gonna be good.
I remember when I was in university, there was a period where I started to get into some Korean movies, like here and there, but didn't really take hold as much as Japanese movies did for me. Although there were some definite good ones back then that were coming out, and Korean pop culture is becoming so prevalent now, like all over the world. Not only in Japan, it's huge. Like like all the streaming services have a whole slew of Korean dramas. You go to the video store, there's like entire sections devoted just to like Korean dramas there. So they become massive. Yeah, they become massively popular here.
The K dramas are just K-pop, K dramas. It's insane. Like I started getting sucked because my girlfriend watches K dramas, and she was watching one that had to do with the superheroes or superhero, I guess. Well, he would write a comic book, and whatever happened in his comic book would happen in his real life. So he had to like change time with his comic book, and I was like, "This is crazy." And I just started getting sucked in. And we have a friend that comes to the U.S. sometimes for work, and he's from Korea, and so we're trying to plan a trip to go visit him. But yeah, it's.
If you go to Korea though, I will say don't go in the winter because it is brutally cold there in the winter. That's something I found out the hard way.
Oh jeez, I bet.
I don't. That's my nightmare. Cold. That's my weakness. If I was a superhero, I'm pretty sure my weakness would be the cold.
Oh, same here. Absolutely.
Anything under 40, your powers drain,
and my nipples would just stay hard. And
I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, so like every year my mom asked me about coming home for Christmas, and I'm just like, nope.
No way.
We went we went like 2 years ago because my sister got married around Christmas, so I'm like, all right, this is the only time I'm going to go in December. After that, no.
You're lucky I'm even showing up.
Yeah. I'd never heard of this movie before, but it is the same director of Train to Busan, Yeon Sang-ho. I haven't seen Train to Busan, but everybody I know who's talked about it just raves about how good it is.
I was about to rave on it right now. It's I think it's the best zombie movie ever.
That's what a lot of people have said. Yeah,
from beginning to end is just insane, and not insane as in just like go. Like the story is also good, but it does go from beginning to end.
See, I'm a big horror movie buff too. Like I love 80s horror, so I will say it's really good, but not the best zombie movie ever.
Okay. Well, just out of curiosity, what would you say is the best?
Oh, my favorite personally is Return of the Living Dead.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that it's the second best. My favorite's Dead Alive.
Okay, that one's also very good.
That was very good.
I never really thought about what my favorite zombie movie would probably be. I mean, I really like the Dawn of the Dead remake, though.
Those are
Really?
good.
And yeah, I like the Dawn of the Dead. I like that remake. I love the original one too, but both of those were really solid. Um, and I watched 28 Days Later. I think it ended up being a little bit overrated for me when I saw that. Everybody was talking about
that
it.
movie.
It's good. It's good, but it was just talked up way too much, I think, for me.
I think
I
it was
remember watching that in theaters and being so scared because that was one of the first movies I watched where zombies could run, and I was like,
Yep.
I gotta get out of here.
They run fast, like
sprint.
Oh, it's so good. They sprint, yeah, full speed.
And one of the things I've seen, and I've only watched some recent Korean stuff, but like Parasite or Squid Game, and one of the things that struck me about those movies, and also those and the TV show, and also this movie too, is just the class warfare aspects, and just like how predominant that seems to be becoming in Korean, at least the Korean stuff I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, now you say that, it does, because I mean, in this movie, Psychokinesis, Bullet Train, Parasite, Squid Game, all of them have to do with, the class differential.
Mm-hmm. So, what were some things that stood out to you when you guys were watching this movie? Some things that you think that you wanted to focus on?
I'll say, I noticed these stories always have a broken father, with like the mother's not present or she is present, but you don't really you just get the idea that she is taking full responsibility of their kid or like the household or whatever it is, and the father's always like a drunk, or he's just like, he sucks and doesn't want, and then it's always the same outline. I felt like I've seen that trend lately, and that's one thing that I've noticed in that movie, is because he's like he's a deadbeat who's very selfish. That's what I've noticed. And then his mom, spoilers, his mom, or not his mom, but his ex-wife dies, and the daughter's left alone. And I think she would rather be alone than deal with her father, because she knows who he is and how he is. But he wants to put on his big boy pants and take responsibility for once. So that's what I noticed.
What's out with me is every superhero has to have a dead parent. And at the beginning, one of the parents died, so I was like, all right, it's going to be good.
That is
sad as it is, but
that is a recurring trend, like death of the parents in almost every single superhero story.
We should be superheroes.
Yeah, for real. Where's my powers?
I know. What the heck?
But I get what you're saying about the father issue too, and that's something I noticed too. Like also it reminded me of Squid Game, because there's that whole aspect of it with the main character in that. And now I'm no expert on Korean culture. I don't know much about Korean culture, especially compared to like Japanese culture. But I do know that there's some crossover, and in Japanese culture, there's this big shame component to the culture. So if you fail to provide for your family in some way, there are actually secret moving agencies that will help people like leave behind their lives and move to like a different part of the country to like start over. There's a really good podcast about it called Evaporated, and it was all about like these different stories about these people who just kind of like left their lives behind because they got swallowed up in debt. They couldn't they lost their jobs, all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not sure how much that is also a factor in Korean culture, but it definitely seems like it from what I've seen in this movie, or also in Squid Game.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to write that down, because that sounds like a very good podcast.
It is. It was very good. Evaporated. It was like Evaporated, Gone with the Gods, I think was the full title.
Jeez, there's subscriptions for everything now.
But I think too, what I thought about when I was watching this is it did make me think of Everything Everywhere All at Once a little bit, because what I think that movie did so well, beyond just all the multiversal stuff and all that kind of thing, but the fact that it had this, it used like this superhero narrative to tell this very personal story about a mother and daughter. And we get something similar here with telling this story about a father trying to reconnect with his daughter.
Yeah, so that kind of took me by surprise too, because I thought the title and the cover of the movie and the description kind of is like a superhero movie. It's going to be about the guy that's a superhero, but he's not quite a superhero. It seems he's just kind of like trying to become a
better person,
a hero for his daughter, I guess. But yeah, it was a lot more personal than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, there was I felt like it focused more on his father-daughter relationship, because I was expecting a full-on superhero movie where he's like learning to use his powers and like gets an enemy, a arch nemesis of some sort, and then like maybe even gets a suit or something, the basic steps of like becoming a superhero. But it almost had like none of that, and it's basically about his connection with his daughter, and then the city, taking over people's land.
It's like a debt collector they're trying to evict all these people to build their own stuff there, and then in the end you find out it doesn't even matter, like the eviction doesn't even matter, and it's like, oh, like a whole mess for nothing.
They just wanted to do it because they could, or they had the promise of having a successful, what was it they were building there? I forget.
It was like a shopping plaza or something for dedicated toward. It was geared towards Chinese tourists, I believe, is what they said.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So, and then it didn't even matter because they didn't have the full plan in effect. They just were like, "Whoops."
Yeah. It was it turned out not to be profitable at all. It's funny because it does make me think about that whole idea with like this consumer capitalism, where it's just almost like vampiric in a way, where it keeps draining and draining all the resources from the community, and then it gets to the point where if you don't have the community there, if the community can't afford to shop at these places, and the whole thing's going to fall apart in the end.
Yeah, their eyes are bigger than their brain, I guess, or whatever the saying is. My brain's not very big. My head's big. Brain.
Yeah.
Well, also too, I wonder how much of it is just is supposed to exist on paper in terms of like the plan, and like the real plan is actually to get money out of the community through like these contracts and all that kind of stuff, and then just take the money and run. Because
sorry to interrupt, but yeah, they kept going and like, give us money, like not protection money, more like give us money so you could squat here a little longer or whatever, Yeah, because they were bullying them, but they were still trying to take money from them. So maybe it was somewhat profitable for them for a little bit until they didn't move out.
Yeah, and I thought some of the scenes in this were really good too, especially that opening scene when Rumiz gets attacked by the thugs that are working for the construction company. Like, a harrowing scene. Like, I was genuinely like terrified for her in that scene.
It felt like a zombie attack.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. I could definitely see why so many people like Train to Busan if that's the way he directs his zombie movies.
Oh man, yeah, you gotta watch it because it's better than that. But
yeah, she's like sleeping in the dark in her kitchen because she owns a restaurant that's going under. But she's like sleeping in it, and it's all boarded up, and they just start attacking her at night. And then she calls her mom saying the police, or they're here, call the police. And her mom shows up in that van. And I was like, I'll just run them over. And then she gets in the van and just tries to run them over. I was like, yeah. And
then she crashes.
Yeah, she misses the whole crowd.
Yeah, that was.
And then they pull her out, break her neck. And the funniest thing is, like, they always say, "Gosh, oh gosh, oh god." And when they just killed this poor girl's mom, and he's, "Oh gosh, fuck, gosh, gosh, fuck."
Wait, did you watch it with the subtitles or with the the dub.
subtitles. Yeah, there was no
Yeah, I watched
English.
it with subtitles.
Same.
Yeah, and that's what I kept reading. They're like, "Gosh, fuck, she's dead." Gosh,
Did that sound that her head made when she hit the curb?
That was that was
Harley, huh?
It was pretty. It got me. It reminded me of like the first time I saw the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he hits him in the face with the meat cleaver, and you hear that like thud, and it's just super accurate, and it made me go like, ugh, you know, that was a good
Too real.
noise, yeah. But yeah,
Now,
she ends
one
up
of the things-
dying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, so I was going to say one of the things that I thought was kind of weird about it was just the way Sokhan, and I think I'm pronouncing that name right, gets his powers in the first place, which is because this is the thing that kept bugging me throughout the whole movie. I'm like, okay, so if this meteorite has infected this water supply, how come he's the only one who gets powers?
He's the only one that drank the little blue hue. And
well, afterwards he's like, the water's dirty, and they didn't. They just kept going to the water.
No,
And
they
the
kept
water-
going. Yeah, that next lady, she went in and she drank it too. So yeah, I was that's what I was wondering, if there was going to be, you know, when you mentioned the fact that there is no like, you know, super villain in, you know, like the traditional sense, like that made me wonder, like, is there going to be someone else who they recruit that that also drank the water? But just
now it's like so many super powered bugs and fish now because it just drained.
Well, I guess he got the most of it though, or all of it actually, because he's the only soup in that universe, and
that we know of.
Also, I think that scene was to point out that he is not taken serious at all.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like no one's going to listen to this guy,
right?
That's
what I felt too. Like he's just he comes off as such a goofball. And just like, you know, such a dumbass in that introduction, which is which kind of I was kind of glad they did that, because it the way they kind of play with your expectations about what kind of movie it's going to be, because at that, you know, when we first see him, my whole impression was that, okay, this is probably going to be a little bit more comedic than serious, but it ended up being having a pretty even tone throughout.
I agree. It was pretty funny. He's a funny character himself. He made me laugh, like his acting. So
yeah, when he's like, "Wah,"
and his little fingers get all contorted.
But
I love it
when he talks to that the cleaning lady, and she's like, "Where'd you get all these coffees?" He's like, "Oh, she's like, "Oh, you steal these from the bank?" He's like, "Yeah, they don't know." And then 5 seconds later, he goes out and she's taking them from the bank, but she gets caught, and she calls his name, and he just like ducks his head and like runs through the alley like, "Oop."
Yeah, he's like, "Not my chair, not my problem." I love that he just justifies it too. He's like, "You dumb lady, of course they're going to notice if you take that many at once."
Yeah.
He's like, not tactical at all.
There's very much this this sense of being out for yourself that he has, especially at the beginning there.
Yeah, he's definitely selfish.
Yeah, when he finds out powers, and his daughter like is, you know, she just like wants him pretty much, but he's just like, check out my powers. I can make a lot of money being a magician. And that's all he's thinking about is like money, me, and he doesn't care. Like, we can get your restaurant back, get your life back together. He's just like, don't worry, like I could turn this tie into a snake.
Well, I think that goes back to what Perry was saying, is that it's the culture aspect of it, because he's probably trying to take the blunt of what's happening to her life with this new ability that he has, and now he has the ability to make income provide for both of them, and she's not getting that because she's never had that from him before. So she's probably just lost.
She understandably doesn't trust him. And, you know, also the whole, he has this attitude that, what I think is definitely true of a certain generation of, you know, it's funny. My wife was watching kind of like a making of documentary about the movie Elementals. It's like a Pixar movie, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And, and the director is Korean American. And he was talking about how his, and I was just kind of like tuning in and out as I was, you know, reading my comics, but he was talking about how that he was doing when he was a kid growing up. for his parents, there was this whole idea of, you have to, work is a grind. It's not something you enjoy doing. It's something that you do for money. Like, you can't make money as an artist or anything like that. And I think I see a similar kind of cultural rift between him and his daughter in this movie, where he thinks like, oh well, if I just had the money, that's going to solve all your problems, and she's like, no, the problem is not the money. The problem is these guys who are harassing us and trying to steal away what's ours and all that kind of stuff.
And she's also has a community when he's worried about just her.
Right, exactly. Yeah, she's very much, she feels like she's part of that community. She feels the need to stand up for that community, to work with it, and he's, again, just all in it for himself, where he's like, no, forget the community, forget all of them, and he's very suspicious of anyone who seems to have altruistic motives, like with the lawyer, right? His whole idea is like, he's like, oh, you're just doing this because you want to get in bed with my daughter.
Hey, he wasn't wrong though.
He wasn't entirely wrong. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. He knew. He's a guy. He knows what's up. He's like, you like my daughter.
Dude, I did like that lawyer though.
I thought he was a good character. Yeah.
Yeah, because he made that barrier, he like pulled the car forward and all those grunts ended up quitting and stuff. He's like, and he makes a barrier, right? And the lawyer goes, and like he screams and tries to do the powers too, because like, maybe if I just scream I can do it too, and it didn't work. So he's like, yeah, whatever, worth the shot.
I think my favorite character was the goon, the bad guy, I forget his name, but he's the leader of the pack of the crowd that comes in and breaks all the windows and stuff.
Beat up by that lady.
Yeah, he was hilarious. I thought he was funny because he would crack me up with like he's not so intimidating, but he tries really hard to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me, like, I don't know, it reminded me of Kung Fu Hustle when they're pretending to be
the axe game.
Yeah. There's I got that kind of sense too.
But I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, when he goes into the mom's funeral, they just throw this. It's also messed up. They just showed up to the funeral after killing her.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start throwing stuff on the ground, and I'm like, oh my god! Like,
well, it just shows like their arrogance and how they feel like they can get away with anything because they've got money and they've got strength. So it's like this whole idea where he just comes in, waltzing in, and he's like, here's money for the fact that we murdered your mother, and her righteous indignation was well deserved, I thought.
Yeah, it was.
I thought going back to that scene, there was a scene that I just found so adorable because they come to the funeral and then everyone's telling them to leave, and she sees them from afar. Rumi is her name, right?
Yeah.
And she just comes in, like the guy's trying to get him. The lawyer guy is trying to get him to get the heck out of there, but he's not using any like really force. And she just comes in and like puts her head down and just like
starts ramming him.
Ramming him. And I was just, they're not going to hit her, so she just kind of like puts her self in harm. But I just thought that was so
awesome.
cute. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
like, bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, just little headbutts.
It's funny too, but it also just shows how few options that this community has to fight back against these guys. Like the only thing she can really do is just impotently hit her head against his chest, and that's it.
Yeah. To be in that position sucked.
Yeah, and then you find out that they're not even that powerful. There's someone beyond them, which is that girl. You find out that real villain or whatever. She's kind of scary because she's. They're at the dinner and she's like, oh, go ahead, eat. You don't have to eat with me here. Mm-hmm. And then she brings in goons to jump him because he's not doing his job in time. And she just starts screaming, no, stop. No. And she's just like looking out the window, like screaming these things just so she could record it to act like, oh, nothing happened.
She had a reason to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was that actress. I really liked her. Jung Yumi is her name.
Oh yeah, she's great.
She was great. She was a lot of fun in that role. I think she was probably, of all the villains, I think she was probably my favorite.
Yeah, because she gave off that like villain vibe when the other guy's kind of like, that's just They gave off more gruntish, but she gave off like villain because she was kind of sick with it.
So like a kingpin.
Yeah, kind of. And then she goes to a jail cell and tells the dad about like the ultimatums and stuff. And here's your options. You're gonna do what I say. And it's like, all right, we'll see what happens. That's why I was like excited. Like, what's the dad gonna do? Like, this is where we're gonna see if he's gonna use his powers or not, or where his mind hit stays.
Yeah, she was also in what is it? Train to Busan as well.
Oh. I don't know. She did.
Yeah, no, she was. I just looked her up, but yeah, she was in Train to Busan as well. She's a pretty big name in South Korea, it seems.
Oh, that just reminded me of like who they thought was in charge of when he makes an impact the first time he comes to defend the community, and he like throws them everywhere and they record it, and he's trying to explain what is going on to the cop at the office. He's like, who started it, who assaulted who, and he's like trying to convince the cop that he used these powers to throw over everybody, and he's like, on camera it looks silly because it just looks like he's waving his arms, and he's like, this is hard to understand. Hard to explain. And
so to give some context back to that, so there's a fight between the goons and the community, and they take it's recorded. It's kind of the first time you get to see the dad use his powers to like defend or like use his powers to attack, and they take that video to the police to show the police. So you have these two groups showing this one police officer at the computer the video of the fight, and they're both giving commentary on it, like who hit who first. And since this guy can make people float, float and fly, it looks like Power Rangers when sparks fly off and they
I thought that it was clever, the way they expressed this superpower on camera, because there wasn't that much special effects. It was more like camera pan, cut, and then start right then. And it reminded me of Power Rangers actually a lot, when he would move his arm or the sword and then the people would fly. It reminded me a lot of that, and I thought there was a lot of clever camera tricks that they used to express telekinesis.
I thought so too. Yeah, I thought the practical effects and the way they expressed his powers was very well done. It's trying to keep it very grounded in this world and not trying to go too over the top with computer effects or anything like that. Which those have their place. Obviously, I mean, you can do a lot of the stuff we see in a lot of superhero films without them. But for something like this, it makes sense to go more practical.
Yeah, and it was nice on the eyes. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
There's only a few CGI stuff, and I mean, it wasn't the greatest, but also, was needed, I guess. But
right,
it was good enough.
It doesn't overwhelm you like
the Flash.
There's a movie I was. Oh God, yeah, exactly. Like the babies in the microwave and all that.
Yeah. I don't think Michael's seen the new Flash.
No, I haven't. Which is crazy because Flashpoint Paradox is one of my favorite DC movies, and it's supposed to be kind of Flashpoint Paradox.
I mean, it's the same basic story, but we're about him going back in time. But it's just Michael Keaton's great. Michael Keaton is awesome in it. That's about, and Sasha Cale is pretty good too as Supergirl. But that's about it. Those are the only things worth watching it for.
I'll watch it.
And I guess the Nicolas Cage cameo is kind of funny.
Yeah, that he doesn't know about that either. But they basically threw Nicolas Cage in it with all CGI. Yeah, and he's Superman.
Really?
From the Superman Lives thing,
That is so funny.
Bad. But he just looks like it's almost so much CGI you don't realize it's Nicolas Cage until you're like, oh, like
I see what they did.
Okay,
Yeah. It was the other day we did an episode we recorded an episode on Green Lantern, and just some of the scenes in it looked like, just like out of a PS2 cutscene, right? That kind of kind of bad level of CGI. Whereas this one, when they do use CGI, it's not the best, but they know their limitations. They only use it sparingly.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like
budget's always so big.
I need to go back and watch something like that, because in my mind, I love Green Lantern. When it came out, I thought it was pretty cool. Like, even though CGI mask, but I know for a fact if I went back and watched it, it'd be terrible. So I had a similar. It was funny because I went into that episode and watching that movie. I'm gonna defend this movie, and after I watched it, I'm just like, yeah, I can't. There's some stuff in it that I thought Ryan Reynolds was great, but Mark Strong was great too. So some great casting in it, but the overall story just didn't really work.
And his abilities, like when I think Green Lantern, I think barriers, and I think giant like cool structures, and I feel like there's none. It just reminded me of like a giant Hot Wheels track with the Hot Wheels car. Just was over the top. I was like,
I actually like that. I thought it was a cool and creative way to do that.
Funny idea. I guess I'm more practical. So like if I was Green Lantern, it would all just be like, I don't know. My imagination's not that crazy, I guess. So.
Well, I think that's the funny thing, because usually Hal Jordan in the comics, he doesn't have the best imagination compared to like Kyle or John Stewart, who are much more imaginative and have, Kyle's being an artist, so he was always like thinking up these really detailed types of constructs.
Dude. Sorry. I just saw Michael's forehead again.
There's a reoccurring joke on our podcast where, because my forehead goes for a very long time, so I usually in the video I wear my hat like this, like I'm a mystery character.
Oh my gosh! And you just itched your head, so I just had to look.
Anyway. Also, I thought that the showing the police in this too, and just like the fact that they're basically also tools for this, these corrupt vultures. Basically, I thought was also a nice touch. The fact that he's the one who's defending these people, but he's the one who ends up going to jail at the end.
Yeah, I thought oh cool, because the cops were kind of in the middle at first, like who hit who first, and I was like, that's kind of cool. And then also they weren't like arresting anybody for squatting, which I thought, oh, here, in America, they would be arrested by now, or like evicted somehow,
and get the shit beat out of them in the process.
Yeah, and then the police over there seemed pretty fair until the end when they showed up in freaking
riot gear.
Yeah, riot gear, and
basically a tank.
Mm-hmm.
It was a giant crane.
I'm not sure what the laws are for squatting in South Korea. That may have had something to do with it, but again, I have no clue. I know that in other countries they're less strict about that stuff than they are in America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you
other things to worry about.
Yeah, if you can find some good loopholes, you can squat pretty good. But
in America,
yeah,
if you like, I've seen videos lately of landlords not able to evict the people that are renting out their place, or people in Airbnbs not able to evict people, even though they're renting it out to them and they stop paying them, but they technically cannot. I forget the loophole there, but it's
the
like
loophole is you're supposed to clean something every so often. If it's not cleaned, like they stay there and they're like, oh, it's supposed to clean. You say it's cleaned every week, and the cleaner didn't show up. That's a violation in the contract, so I'm going to stay here to get my money's worth, and I'm not paying until you pay me back my damages. And so they don't want to pay him the damages because that's not right. So then they just live there for months for free.
I'm not sure about. I know it differs from like state to state, city to city, but I know in Japan they've got there are a lot of laws designed to protect renters. So like you can't have like the kind of evictions they have in the U.S. as like they. So like that whole kind of thing, like during COVID when landlords were like evicting people en masse, like they can't do that here in Japan. Legally, they cannot do that.
That's great, actually.
I keep seeing videos those videos in Japan where they always have those like abandoned houses for like $10,000 or
Yeah,
and
because
people are
there's
trying.
I just read an article about this one lady who she was living in a nursing home and she had kept her house because she was hoping her sons would move back. But of course, they've got jobs in like a big city, so they don't want to move back. And and she started renting it out to this couple, and the whole idea was just kind of like you pay like $300 a year, which is like the taxes of it, and that's it. And then everything else, you could do whatever you want to the house. You can fix it up. Any repairs though are all on you. All that kind of stuff.
Dude.
That's pretty crazy. But usually, I mean, sometimes they're closer to big cities, but usually they're out like countryside.
They are, yeah. They're called Akiya, which is like Japanese for like empty house, and because a lot of it is there's an inherited tax too, so like people don't want to claim them because then they have to pay the taxes, and then they're up on the taxes for them. And selling it is a pain in the ass. You have to pay to get it demolished. You got to pay for the garbage disposal and all that. So
they figure it's just better to let someone live in it or buy it for cheap than.
Well, yeah, those who do, but other people like the family will just kind of like when the parent or grandparent who lived there died, or gets moved to a nursing home, the family just kind of like pretends the house doesn't exist and like doesn't answer any questions about it.
That's wild.
There have been some efforts now that because honestly they're a fire hazard because they're all wood basically. Yeah. So they're trying to do stuff to get people to rent them out or to sell them very cheaply. So yeah, there are websites you can go on where you can look up, how much they cost, and yeah, they're cheap. They're very cheap, like 10,000, like you were saying, sometimes less than that. I remember one time, this is like years back, but I remember when I was living in a small town out here, there was one that was going for like, I think like $5,000 or something like that.
That's so cool.
The dream.
Let's move to Japan.
Yeah, if you could work remotely.
That's the thing. Yeah, if you can work remotely and if you can get a visa, those are the big things. And if you're willing to be part of the community, because if you don't want to, ingratiate yourself with the locals, then you'll probably have issues living in that one of those places.
True.
The main character's house, when you see his room, and like, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. He's just had trash everywhere, smoking in his little room, and just garbage everywhere. I thought that was a pretty cool scene where he just lifted.
I kind of miss that where you just sit on the mat, like there's no couch, it's a mat usually. Like I grew up with some Asian friends, and you just go. They roll out this it's like a fake straw mat. You just sit crisscross and just eat meats and watch TV.
They're a lot of like the older houses. They'll be much smaller in size, so like rooms are like multi-purpose, where it's like during the day it's the living room, and then at night you pull out the futons from the closet and then you sleep in there. So we live in a biggerish house, so we've got beds and everything here, but there are a lot of places like that. I know a lot of my students at university live in like these one room apartments, and that's what they do.
I mean, it's smart. You use the spaces you got, or use it for as much things as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a cool scene when he makes everything float in his living room.
All the garbage.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, the way that they handle his powers is very well done. It's very artfully executed. The way they showcase all that stuff and how he's able to, and just like the way they make it look all pretty seamless for the most part.
Yeah, and also like how he starts to like, I love it. He has a stomach ache. Oh, and that kind of like activates so often, and then he kind of slowly does more and more and more with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to the end, like he levels up like crazy. Where he is, so
flies.
Yeah, eventually they come in with their I was going to say tractor, but it's a crane, or not even a crane. What is it? Oh, it's a crane. They have like a crane and a bulldozer
it's a crane.
And then all the cops, and they're like, okay, the lawyer's telling Rumi to give up. Like it's over with. Like they, and then he sees the news while he's in prison, the hero, and sees that invading this area, and so he just like takes that dude's cell phone, and then like with his telekinetic powers, I thought that was neat. And then he like just levels up in the prison cell or jail cell, I mean, and then explodes out basically. And then he unlocks like new abilities, because before he could just pull things towards him or make things levitate, but now he could like create a barrier around him, and then like one strong enough so the point where he could fly. And I was like, whoa.
Dude, when he busts out of that jail cell and crushes that girl's car, because she just gave him the ultimatum of like, do what I say when I say, and he's going to go to his cell and think about what he's going to do, and then until he finds out they're getting attacked, and then he's like, oh, so he breaks out and then jumps out and then crushes her car.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing I feel like he does is he unlocks durability, or he must be making a force field around himself, because he jumped like 4 stories and then landed, and then made a crater and then crushed her car like Magneto would, and then he just starts running and jumping and basically just bouncing off of these things, which is insane. Because if any other person probably would have just died.
Imagine having those powers and you fell 4 stories and just died with all those powers because you didn't know how to control it. No.
I fear that that's something that would happen to me if I unlocked powers. I like some scene out of The Boys.
You get super strength, but not your ability, so you go lift a car and you break your arm.
Yeah, that would happen.
But yeah, that scene when he's flying over the city too, I just love the visual of that as well. Like some great, just a great camera work in this movie all around.
Very Matrix Revolutions. That's what it reminded me of.
although a much better movie though.
Yeah, you don't like Revelations?
I'm not.
I didn't like any of them really.
I mean, I liked Resurrections. I thought the new one was pretty good, but yeah, Revolutions and Reloaded was not really fond of.
Oh yeah, wait, never mind. We could talk about that in some other podcast.
Get me started on Matrix.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you guys have anything else to say about Psychokinesis? Anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention?
I guess
the fact that he goes to jail. So he goes to jail for 4 years and comes out and finds out that his daughter and the lawyer ended up getting married.
Yeah, he was right all along. And I thought it was funny that after he basically saves his daughter from falling, rebuilds that connection, make sure everyone's safe and across a way that doesn't get arrested, he takes the blunt of it all. And it's like, okay, now you can arrest me. I did what I needed to do. And then actually serves time. And I don't know.
The first time he was selfless in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I like that too. The fact that he, I mean, it's both, it shows just how corrupt this society is, and the fact that the guy who's actually protecting people is the one who gets arrested. But also it worked to show that he was, he was finally taking responsibility for his actions.
Mm-hmm. It was a good story.
It was. It came all back around and connected just fine. And she got to reconnect with the parent. So she lost one but gained one. So it was nice.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
And she also opened a new restaurant.
Mm-hmm. And she's
Superpower Chicken.
Yeah.
Superpower Chicken.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that too. That she'd been honoring him ever since he went to prison. And then at the end when he comes out, he's using his powers to bring drinks to the customers.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
He can't carry 12 drinks, so he's just like pouring all the drinks.
I thought that was funny because he just showed up and like she's like, "Help me out!" Like I can't do all this by myself. So he just grabs the beers and lifts them up and. He has no idea where they're going. I was just like, there's some funny moments in this movie that I thought, like, I'm just going to pick and choose. Like, when the cops are trying to break into the door and they got that barrier up and there's like smoke in the building that they throw in, and everyone's yelling and everyone's hitting their shields with the sticks, and rocks are being thrown, and then she just like pulls her phone out and like answers the phone. I'm like, what? Like, you can't even hear your phone. I guarantee it. I thought that was funny. It's like, oh, well, she has time to answer a phone call, because she literally is pushing up against the wall, helping them close the door. And then she like grabs her phone and leaves. It's like, what? All right.
Mykel, do you have anything else that you wanted to mention about it?
No, just that I liked it. It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was a fun movie, and it's on Netflix. At least it is here in Japan. Obviously, I think you guys watched it in America too. So I think it's a Netflix original. So you should be able to watch it on there without any problem. And I didn't even because this was one of those movies that just like, this is one of the things I hate about Netflix is their algorithm just hide stuff from me like this, because I never saw this pop up at all. When you guys mentioned it, I'd never heard of it, and I'm like, oh well, let me see if it's at the video store. And then I looked it up, and then right up on Netflix, that was the first result. I'm like, oh, it's on. Okay, all right. Why didn't Netflix ever tell me about this? Then I watch a lot of superhero stuff.
I'm glad we picked it then, because I was looking through the list of all the things you've done. I was like, man, he's done a lot. But to do something you've never even heard of is great.
Well, yeah, we've done that a few times. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we like. I mean, we do the big name stuff like the MCU ones and the DC stuff, but it's also fun to look at these like unknown superhero movies and kind of spice things up a little bit and give people a taste of something they may never have heard of before.
Yeah, I was gonna people will watch it because it is a good movie. I wouldn't say it's underrated because I've also never seen it, but I have seen the ratings and I feel like it's perfectly rated.
I was going to tell Mykel if we couldn't figure out a movie. I didn't know if you guys have done anything, but I was going to mention Bruce Willis in Unbreakable.
We actually got someone scheduled to do that in an episode that's coming up. Yeah. So that's one we got.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we've also got someone who's supposed to be coming on for Split, although we had some scheduling issues, so we're trying to work that out too.
Wait, Split's the newest one, right?
No. Split was the second one. Glass was the newest one. Yeah.
Glass. Oh my god.
Yeah. Glass was a letdown, but Split and Unbreakable both very good.
Classic M. Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
I'll never forgive him for what he did to Avatar.
What he did to Avatar. My god.
We have something to look forward to, though.
Yes, they got the new one coming out, so that looks. I haven't seen the trailers yet, but from what I've heard people talk about online, it seems like people are getting excited about it.
It looks a lot better than.
Well, I mean, it's hard to be worse, right?
Yeah. Oh my god. All right,
guys. So why don't you promote your podcast? Anything else you'd like to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you could follow us on Bad Potatoes Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And we are on Spotify, iHeartRadio. We are on all things podcast pretty much besides Google Play right now.
Yeah.
So at the Bad Potatoes Pod. And if we're really interactive on Instagram, we post a lot of polls and stuff. So if you guys want to come join us, and we do a lot of like votings, like this better. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
We're on YouTube, but we're working on a few kinks with the video player, like you said. So, but we plan to be more consistent on that end. But for the most part, we're on pretty much every podcast app.
Okay, cool. And
then I'm on Carpet Corp. If you guys are interested in anything geek related carpets, I also do take commissions. Roy, you have Roy Wood and Retro Roach, right?
Retro Roach, yeah. Roy Wood's not so much anymore, unfortunately, but Retro Roach is the new one that I'm just coming up with ideas. Video games.
And that's also on Instagram too?
Instagram, TikTok, yeah.
Okay. So we'll have links to all that stuff in the show notes, so you guys can make sure to check those out. As for us, superherocinephiles.com is the website. We are Super Cinema Pod on Instagram and Blue Sky and Threads. Technically, we're still on Twitter, but I try not to go there anymore because Elon Musk is a fascist. So
it's on X.
Yeah, X.
It's a real shame that there's not a real alternative to Twitter right now.
I know, yeah. I'm just like,
Yeah.
when all these alternatives popped up, I just joined every single one of them. I'm just hoping one of them is going to take
Takes
the lead
off.
and become the one that everyone's going to go to now. But
Same.
it hasn't happened yet, so we'll see. It's for a second it seemed like it was going to be Threads, and then Threads fell down, and then Blue Sky came up, and then now Threads seems to be coming back up. So we'll see how things work out.
Awesome.
And also, don't forget my comic book, Paragons of Earth, which you can find at crowdfunder.com/paragonscomic. That is crowdfunder.com/paragonscomic. By the time you listen to this, the crowdfund will hopefully be over with, but you can also buy a copy there. So please make sure to go there and support us. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. Superhero Cinephiles is produced by me, Percival Constantine, with the support of Zencastr. The show is created by myself and the late great Derek Ferguson, our host emeritus. Visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com to listen to past episodes or find out how you can be a guest yourself. Support the show by visiting our advertiser links or click the Buy Me a Coffee link on the website to make a one-time donation. You can also support us by visiting crowdfunder.com/paragonscomic. That's crowdfunder with no E. .com/paragonscomic and help support my superhero comic book, Paragons of Earth. We are Super Cinema Pod on both Instagram and Blue Sky, so please be sure to follow us. We'd also appreciate if you could rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and share us with your friends.
Thank you for listening. And as always, good night, good evening. God bless.